Hello, everybody, and welcome to Attuning to the Voice of Mother Earth Global Conference, How to Hear Her and Follow Her Call, where through inspiring interviews, we're invited to explore real actions we can take as individuals to deepen our connection to Mother Earth, while at the same time discovering a way to our truer selves. My name is Maya Zacharow, and I'm your host and a producer of Attuning to the Voice of Mother Earth, and a founder of Sisters Wellspring. So we are here today with Adam Gainsburg and Andrea Michelle Haeckel. So I'm gonna go ahead and introduce Adam, just reading his bio, and then right after I'll go ahead and introduce Andrea. Adam is a visionary at the leading edge of the inner transformational technologies. His foremost gift is his rare ability to facilitate others in opening into and courageously embracing their full spectrum humanity. Since 2002, he has brought several thousand people into a direct experience of the vastness of their soul inside their tangible, empowered sense of self. His devotion to authentic presence and practical life experience, rooted in the Semitic intelligence of the human heart, manifests through his impeccable skill and genuine kindness. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you very much, Maya. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. It's an honor to have you both here with us. So here's Andrea's bio. Andrea Michelle Haeckel was deep in retreat when Venus passed between Earth and the Sun in 2012. This event vivified Andrea's passion and awakening the sky in our bodies, especially via beauty and intelligence of synodic cycles. She was invited to help organize the inaugural Sky Astrology Conference in 2015 and made her astrology conference teaching debut in 2018 at the Sky Astrology Conference, the second. In between the Sky Astrology Conference, she completed Adam Gainsburg's Soulful Immersion program and is a practicing soul sign astrologer. She incorporates the living sky in her client sessions using planetary sky factors and phases, as well as declination. She especially enjoys working with couples. Welcome, Andrea.
Thank you. Thank you, Maya. It's a pleasure to be here. And I also want to clarify, too, that the synodic cycles and the phases that I use come from Adam Gainsburg, his work with the synodic cycles.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Thank you for correcting that. I love astrology, but the terms are kind of new to me. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And that wasn't in there. So thank you.
Yeah. So the topic of today's conversation is outside in here, fulfilling Mother Earth's vision. So let's just, begin with the questions. And the first question is, why isn't humanity woken up to the simple fact that we are the expressions of Mother Earth?
Yeah. Maya and everyone watching or listening to this at any time, my intention here in sharing and speaking to you today is not to speak to your minds, not to give you more head information, but to communicate something that can get underneath the protection devices of our existing beliefs and our assumptions about what's real and what's not. So in that light, why haven't we as a species woken up to the simple fact that we are expressions of Mother Earth? Mm-hmm. Because human beings currently in our collective evolution, the number one thing we are focused on, evolutionarily speaking, is to continue to choose what we already know instead of what we don't know. And I would argue too that this impulse is even stronger than the desire for happiness, the desire for a fulfilling life. Because what drives us really, until we start to truly awaken and make the dark light inside of us, is our unconsciousness, our shadow. So this is why I say human beings will still choose known misery over unknown happiness, because in our choice-making process, we're not actually focused on what's miserable and what's happy. We're focused on what we can identify already and what we can't. And what we can identify, we shy away from very immediately. So I think this is why, because if we were to do this, if we were to simply not even accept the fact, awaken to the fact that we are expressions of Mother Earth, that would open up a whole new possibility for how we live on the planet, how we honor our bodies, how we honor her. So I really do feel, Maya, it's based in our evolutionary stage that we're not ready to give up our perception of autonomy, our perception of uniqueness and individuality yet.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that perspective. Definitely have to think on that and kind of to understand like deeper what you're saying. It's true. I think us on a personal level and as together as a species that we're a lot more likely to choose, you know, the old job that doesn't suit us instead of saying, you know what, that no longer serves me. Let me sit in the unknown for a little while until I can develop and, you know, what my next steps are. So yeah, thank you for that perspective.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah.
So what would you say is the most effective way to hear Mother Earth's voice?
We have to get in touch with ourselves. This is the most effective way. Effective here means also efficient. Many people, I would say millions of people, who have started to awaken to their own intuition, develop and cultivate it for years and years and years, before realizing that there are parts of themselves, parts of ourselves, that we have not contacted or have not wanted to open the door to, or have not wanted to love. And because of that, when we discover that, our intuition is suddenly realized to be partial at best for all these years. So I think the number one most effective way to increase that is to get more honest about who we are and who we're not, what we are and are not willing to deal with in ourselves. And then our intuition, just watch, it will effortlessly skyrocket in terms of accuracy, synchronicity, where we will just kind of get hit by knowings in one way or another that we weren't expecting. As I think you'll probably gather, attendees of the conference here will gather, is my view is always that the outer always mirrors the inner, and I take that quite seriously.
Wow. That's amazing that that you said that, because I just want to share for a second that according to the Mayan calendar, it's the modern Mayan calendar. Today specifically, just the energies of today, I'll read them out. I don't usually do that, but it's
Great.
just funny that you said that. May the energy of the white mirror help me to have my inner and outer worlds reflected in a natural order to discriminate truth from illusion.
Yes.
So
yes, is this Ik? Is this the archetype Ik?
It's, to be honest, I don't know that all of their names. I just know it's the white mirror. There's
oh, Etsnob. It's Etsnob, right? Okay, yeah, the mirror. Yes.
There's like different archetypes, at least 20 of them, and today just happened to be the day.
Very cool. Very cool. See, I was saying something, just someone in your daily flow saying something to you, and you go, see, that to me is what I'm talking about. Wait, I got to read that. That's listening. That's very cool. Thank you.
Yeah. So can you tell us what is wisdom?
Yes. Wonderful question. What is wisdom? Well, first of all, number one, I am probably not qualified to answer that question in the scope of it. Number two, there are so many answers to that question. As an astrologer, I focus on a person's dharma, what they're actually here for, not what their belief system is. So in order to understand what someone is actually cellularly here for, you have to understand where they actually come from. So this creates a kind of evolutionary trajectory that frames the entire chart. If there are 12 different trajectories, 12 signs of the zodiac, then we could argue there are 12 wisdoms. Each wisdom described by each of the zodiacal signs. wisdom to me is a knowing that is shared in every cell of one's body, even though it may not be conscious yet, even though it may not be accessible by the conscious awareness yet. Wisdom is a kind of proof, if you will, an evolutionary proof that we are connected to everything, everywhere, everyone, and everywhen. Wisdom is the knowing of what is true, and what is true regardless. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm just wondering for us, you know, for everyone, how do I wake up this wisdom? How do we,
Yeah,
you know, make it come to life? How do we make it conscious or more conscious for that matter?
beautiful. I have found in my life and work the number one most important thing to do to wake up our wisdom is we have to find something that we are protected or we are defending or we are ignoring, and we have to surrender to it. This does not mean giving up our power. It does not mean laying down our life, like giving away ourselves. It means surrendering our defensive structures, surrendering our attachments to that we already know what the deal is. There's always more. That's wisdom. There's always more to step into. That's wisdom. And I think that's the way to do it. To find a place in us where we have hard boundaries, whether they're conscious or otherwise, and find in our hearts a place to, lay ourselves in front of that and say, I surrender.
Mm-hmm.
I surrender my need to be right. I surrender my need to be less than, whatever the issue is.
Yeah. So can you give like a practical example in your life? Where did you have to surrender your limitations?
Great. When I was first learning astrology from my first teacher, which was actually Mayan astrology, not Western, he was giving a teaching, and I understood the concepts. I understood what he was saying. It was very exciting to me at the time. And later that day, I took a nap, and I woke up, and I felt immediately very frightened, very frightened. And I didn't know where it was, what it was coming from. And because before I had started that class with him, I had already found a way to communicate with nature through making flower essences and gem elixirs, that I already had this kind of one-to-one relationship with Mother Earth, just the magic and the beauty and the profundity of Mother Earth, nature.
Mm-hmm.
And so from this fear place of being afraid, and I didn't know why, I opened to Mother Earth. I opened that place in me, the kind of deep intuitive place where I didn't know what was going to happen. In other words, in opening there, I surrendered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what ended up happening was I had a very trippy spiritual download, I guess the phrase is these days. I got a lot of downloads, and I saw, and I usually don't see things in my inner planes, but I saw these beings, and they were so filled with love and like just exuding this energy of wisdom, and that I just surrendered myself. And I said, whatever you have for me, I am receiving it. I am welcoming it. And it didn't come in words. It didn't come in pictures for me.
Mm-hmm.
It came in through the kind of just energy, just feeling the vibe, feeling the energy coming into me. So that would be like, probably, that's what occurs to me in the moment, one of my first experiences of surrendering to something that I don't know, I don't understand, and I certainly can't control, And I think from that place, from that experience, I think my learning of Mayan astrology accelerated. And I began to understand things about the calendar that I was not being taught. So I think, the deeper we can surrender, which is really ultimately surrendering to ourselves. I mean, ultimately, we may not have that understanding. Like in my example, I didn't have the understanding that fear that was coming up was I was coming up to a potential initiation where I was being asked to surrender to a lower or a smaller version of myself to something bigger. But I didn't have any of that language. Only years later can I look back and go, that's what it was.
Yeah.
You know?
Amazing. That's thank you for sharing that. I mean,
You're welcome.
this experience in itself is probably, for me, is like the ultimate surrender. I mean, wow.
Wow.
There's
Thank
nothing
you.
about it that you would know. I'm in my life, I'm thinking about smaller things, what we call smaller things, which might
Right.
not be for you,
Right.
like changing a job or not knowing what you're going to do next with your life, or should you, take this trip, and for you, I mean, forget it.
Well, I face those all the time too. I mean, 2 years ago, my wife and I moved across the country on not exactly a spur of a moment, but my wife kind of looked at me and she said something to me in a voice that was like, wasn't even hers. It was like her own soul was speaking. And from that moment, we completely changed our life. So yeah, like I am regularly practicing what I'm talking about here. Practicing it, which means sometimes I'm not very good at it.
That's no one's good at it. Whenever it proclaims that they're the best at something, that's when you really
Right.
question.
Yes.
So since we're on the question of wisdom, tell us what wisdom from the past or from the future we're still not listening to as a collective.
Great. Yeah. So first, from the past, our ancestors. What we're missing as a collective is we actually cannot and are not meant to escape the wisdom essence of our lineages, of our ancestry. Now, this is not about our emotional relationship with our mother and father, our grandparents, whether we hated who we came from. This is not that level. It's much deeper than that. In other words, we are not meant to escape the wisdom essence of our lineages. That's what we're missing. The wisdom of those who've come before us, that we share the genes of, or the spiritual lineage of. And this, that we cannot escape it, that it is a part of us, is, to me, earth wisdom. This is some of the mystery school teachings of earth. The earth, not only her body, her corpus. Also, that our body, our physical form, and all of its incredible complexity and incredible mini systems that put together our homeostasis and our ability to expand and grow, that our body, no matter how much technology or man-made medicines that we put into it, will remain completely of the earth. Completely of the earth. I think this is what we're missing. Technology can certainly improve our lives, but not to the point where it replaces our physical body, in my opinion. We lose something. We lose something. Life becomes more of a simulation than actual reality when technology becomes, as I say, 51% or more a structure in our lives. When technology is 51% or more in our life, we are now starting to leave, quote, this beautiful, grace-filled reality for a simulation of reality. In terms of the future, Maya, what are we missing or ignoring from our future selves or from the future? What we're missing is a kind of, this is a little dicey to describe, but it's a type of quality of life, a quality of our daily existence that only comes from not knowing. This is a big part of another area of my work, the choice to not know. which is not saying I'm going to dumb myself down, I'm choosing ignorance, I'm intentionally, forgetting things. I don't know, or the choosing to not know, is a profound offering to the future. So I feel like what we're missing or ignoring from the wisdom of the future is that we're not yet slowing down enough to not know. Is that making sense, Maya?
Yeah, it's making a lot of sense.
Good.
It's
Good.
basically, I just kind of want to recap quickly what you said.
Yeah, please.
Talking about the past, how we're part of our where we came from, and you're talking about almost like on the DNA level of our generations from the past, and
Yes.
like that the it seems like the modern world in itself and is trying to almost there's almost a thread from the modern world where you're talking about reality, almost like a virtual reality, instead of like this world, this real life, this real earth that's gifting us all the time. And
Yes.
somehow technology comes in, it's almost like, I don't know, when I sound like apocalyptic, it's almost like a dark force that's trying to steer humanity from its humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like it's this what I think I wrote it partly on my website. It seems like little by little, it's invisible, almost like we're trading in parts of ourselves, just little by little away from our true selves by, like
Yes.
you mentioned 51% specifically. It's almost like, especially this current generation of young kids, you could see how easily and how captured they are by technology in so many ways, whatever the games, even like virtual reality computer games. I mean, I don't even know the technology names, like, but there's so many ways that we're almost stealing their youth, stealing their childhood. So that is almost like a scary concept in a way. And I think it's what we have to fight for, our generation, is to retain our humanity by relating to the earth in the normal daily practices, just by walking, by looking at nature, instead of constantly being on the screen. And I know, like, it's ironic that we say that because we're meeting on Zoom and recording a session, but on the other hand, like, I know as a daily practice, I will go outside without anything, and I will walk on the earth, and it will ground me, and it will bring me back to myself, to my roots, to my DNA. And it's a sensory experience in every way. You can smell the flowers, you can taste something on the way, like, there's something's always blooming, there's blueberries, or even on the regular forest path, when you walk enough, you know what to take from the earth. You can smell it after the rain or whatever. You touch things. So it's an experience in all five senses. So I just wanted, so this is kind of what you were talking about, that this is from the past. From the future is choosing the unknown.
Yes.
Or really trusting that the unknown, and having it okay for yourself and for all of us to be in this space where possibility will come through, and trusting that the best will come through and we will weather through it.
Yes.
And hopefully enjoy, like a better outcome would be in the future.
Yeah. In that way, Maya, I completely agree with you. In that way, that the five senses we have, which is how we take in earth, smell her flowers, feel her grass, etc., is honoring her by being what we are, physical human beings.
Mm-hmm.
The sensory input is our direct opening or our experience of the earth element. Technology is unavoidably, from here on out, a big component of human experience moving forward, whether we like it, hate it, love it. But technology is and of course we can say, well, we need to have a balance there. Well, of course we do, but each person's balance is very, very special and personalized to them. For one person, 3 hours on a computer is way too much a day. For another person, 3 hours a day is just getting started. And in terms of a homeostasis.
Mm-hmm.
So I love what you're saying. I don't, or personally, I wouldn't describe it as kind of as a like a evil thing. I would say it's more is that our immaturity, our need to have our base needs, base desires satisfied, is what makes technology really, really popular. If we had more of a relationship with our body, we would start to just intuitively, just self with self, feel or sense, you know what, time for me to get off the machine right now. But we're looking for something else that the technology provides us instant connection to.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that plus our senses is how we take in the earth. This is really, this is how we do it. I don't know how else to say it. Like this is like just that process of going outside, as you said, feeling your feet on the dirt, the sand, the rocks, the grass, the road, just feeling our feet and feeling that and letting that come into my body on a pure sensation level is now I'm tuned into my earth channel, that sensation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you talk about a little bit about like how do we tap into the wisdom of our ancestry? Like, and you said it's not your direct relationship with your parents or your grandparents, which I'm sure it could be, but how do we
Right.
feel kind of like where do we come from?
Your question is how do we do that? Yeah.
Yeah, how do we do that? Like, how do I connect, for instance, with my ancestry? How do I know where it came from? I mean, there's certain stories, of course, that we're told, or that I'm from Ukraine, so some of my ancestors came from Ukraine. But how do you make it more tangible? How do you?
Yes. Great. Okay, this is a great question. Thank you very much, Maya. So first, it depends how earnest or serious one is in inquiring about this. I'm just going to present how I help or work with people
Mm-hmm.
in people who are like, really, really rolling up their sleeves, metaphorically speaking, and they really want to find out where they come from, whatever information comes. So the first thing is you have to be on it. A person has to really choose, am I willing to see and be open to what I get, what information I get, whether it's from my own intuition or it's from someone else or whatever. Am I really willing to see anything that comes? Because if we can be honest, even in this first step, like, you know what? I only want to hear about the good stuff. I only want to know the positive things. I'm not so interested. I'm not ready. I'm too scared to hear about any negative things that might be living there in my ancestral memory banks.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so that's the first thing. You got to be honest. Are you willing to see everything, or what are you willing to see? Okay, so once you have that answer, then I would then say if a person is more self-directed in terms of ritual and ceremony, create one. Whether it's outside on the earth, or it's inside in one's I don't know, altar room, or in front of a ritual room or an altar, and invoked your own protection, invoke the love or the light or whatever qualities, the power of one's own lineage, and be asked to see, to know, to hear, and to feel any information that's appropriate for me to know now. Again, assuming that you're wide open. If your person decides at the step one that they only want to hear the good stuff, then say, I'm open to all the positive information, all the information that would describe blessings and positive contribution and positive qualities. Let them come. So you do it that way. If a person is not as self-directed, in other words, if what I just described for the last minute or two is complete like foreign language to them, then I would say, go find someone. Find a shaman, find a ritualist, find a guru or a teacher, or a book. Maybe even a teacher that you won't meet, but someone who wrote a book about how to access the wisdom of your ancestry.
Excellent.
And invoke that. Yeah. Now, sometimes I know, and Andrea does this a lot because she's really very, very connected to Earth, is we can access our totems, our animal spirits, animal protectors.
Yes, wonderful.
You know, to access that information. But I think we really need both. We really need to first, before you do anything at all, be honest in how much, like, in other words, am I really willing to hear things right now that I may not like?
Mm-hmm.
And if not, no judgment, just say, no thanks, we're going to leave that part out right now. I just want the good stuff, or whatever it is you want.
Yeah, these are all wonderful, wonderful suggestions. Absolutely. There's so many ways, like you mentioned.
Right. Yeah, there's so many ways.
Yeah, and then ritual is wonderful, and ritual could be, like you said, self-made ritual. You can, whatever comes from your soul. It doesn't have to be, all these ingredients don't have to be in place. Just whatever calls you from and it could be an intentional space and time that you dedicate, which is probably best, but also whatever calls you. If you're walking in the woods for a walk and you just want to collect something, clear the space and say, here it is, this is the present to my ancestors, please guide me on, with your wisdom.
That's what you're describing here and how you're describing it is very strong. This is very, it's beautiful. That's it. As you're speaking, something else that comes to me, if a person is not oriented at all towards ritual, ceremony, invoking, whatever, another way to do it is to slow yourself down, close your eyes, go deeply inside into one's heart, and find genuine gratitude, thankfulness, appreciation, and foster that energy within one and make it bigger. So generate a feeling, not a thought, not a bunch of words, though that could help, but it has to be the feeling of gratitude, thankfulness, appreciation. That can also be one's a valid way to invoke one's ancestry.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that too. And
Yes.
books, as you mentioned, also is a great way. I mean, this is what I've done since childhood. Just read a book.
Right on. Yes.
Because I mean, most of us, unfortunately, I mean, we haven't been taught by our parents, let's say, that this is, or I haven't been taught about a specific ritual, with, the flowers and the earth. Just different rituals about maybe baking, or being around the house, but not really to invoke your ancestry.
Right.
Things like that. Andrea, would you like to tell us a little bit about the animal totems? Because I don't know much about that myself.
Oh, it's funny. I haven't worked very specifically, but it brought up a story, which is maybe an effective story of what Adam has spoken to about being careful what we ask for, or being available for what we ask for years ago, or surrendering. I had, years ago when I first started in shamanic practices, I did the first practice you do is to contact your main spirit animal. So I did the drumming. I put the drumming CD on and I went to contact my spirit animal. And what showed up was an animal that I was like, this can't be. This cannot be. It was a little bit frightening to me. So I said, nah, must not be it. So I did it again. And the same animal showed up. I'm like, what is going on? This is not right, because I had a preconceived notion. Didn't really know it at the time of what it should be, either 1, 2, 3, one of the 4 animals that seemed to be most, powerful or whatever. So I did it a third time, and the same animal showed up. And I'm like, okay, this is, I don't know what to make of this. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to try one more time. And the fourth time, an animal that I recognized came up, and I'm like, okay, that's my power. And it wasn't until years later, through my practices, mostly my work through the experiential practices that Adam does, I've just come to trust that wisdom is often very direct, and we don't want to necessarily see it that way. Wisdom is a lot more commonplace, available, than we really want to know, because we're very much attuned to constructs and creating things and complexity. In our society, we're really, really focused on complexity, right? And complexity is beautiful and it has its place, but really wisdom, it can come softly and it can come very directly, but it's very specific, as Adam said, to each individual. So it's really the process of understanding and learning your succinct wisdom and how it comes through you is to be available for it to look like nothing you would ever expect, to be gentle in our wanting to frame it a certain way immediately when our intuition shows us something, our heart intelligence shows us something, to try to make meaning about it right away. It's part of that not knowing that Adam was talking about. And also to recognize that it's going to change over time too. Like as we deepen into our connection with ourselves and therefore the earth, and as we strengthen our practices with how we connect with Mother Earth, however those look, to be open to how wisdom shows up changing. But as we connect more deeply within ourselves, we will become more available to the changes, the subtleties of how wisdom shows up. And we'll understand then how it shows up differently for our friends, other people, and honor the way that it shows up for them, and learn and just exchange that idea and that collaboration. And how does the wisdom then, each individual's wisdom work toward a collective purpose for the benefit of building the future that we desire in collusion, in harmony with the earth and what she intends for us and our deepest wisdom. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your experience. And I think most of us can relate, not necessarily to an animal totem, but when we're shown something, just like the initial resistance, but that's not what I wanted. That's right. That's not what I am. And yeah, so expanding yourself, as you mentioned, and I think when we each, of course, expand ourselves, we expand the collective also, and make ourselves available and open to what Mother Earth or the universe wants to show us. And as you mentioned in your story, you were seeing the same animal over and over, and yet still.
Yeah. Now this animal is now very much something that I embrace, because I don't have the filters like on it as I used to before. So yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Like we can't see the animal for its medicine, for its wisdom right away. I'll just say something. I was in I think it was in Sedona, Arizona. I was with the group. We went out, we wanted to feel the earth, and the woman who led it, she gave us animal cards. I mean, it's the first time you just pull the card, and I had a mouse, and I was like, what? This is a mouse. A mouse has nothing to say to me. What is this? I need to pull another card. So how small of me, which is ironic too, was take the mice are, I mean, there's so many wonderful things about them. I should have opened myself up and learned about it, and and I did in retrospect. It's just the initial resistance, and right. That's not what I want, which is just an ego, I guess, an ego-based thing. I don't know what else to call it. But so that kind of brings me to the next question. So once we make this personal, cellular, and intimate reconnection with Mother Earth, like what's next? What's our next step?
Mm-hmm. Here's what I do with this, both personally and with people. The first thing is, once I have this connection, it's important to regularly acknowledge that I have this connection. Sounds so like we have to regularly write it out, say it out, dance it out, paint it out, sing it out. I am connected to Mother Earth. Mother Earth is connected to me. In other words, I'm not separate from her anymore. I'm not a solo agent separate from her. We have a partnership now. That's the first. Next, find our way, not what the book says, not what the teacher says you should find out about, but our way of hearing her information, hearing her cues. Now, some of us are clairvoyant. Some of us are clairaudient, clairsentient. Some of us are clair nothing. We just have these senses of things. Whatever it is, however we find, some of us, it's like little tingles behind the back of the right knee. I don't know, like, oh, for some reason, when I get that tingle, I know Mother Earth is speaking, or there is something here for me to pay attention to. And we have to be observant of ourselves and not just easily dismiss it. So it means slowing down again. Some of us, I'm sure, would get cues for life from dreams. Not everyone's dreams all the time are kind of prophetic or intuitive, but some of them might be. But if we're dismissing our dreams just as not that, then we're really missing kind of our main channel for receiving information. And then the third step in this is simply strengthen the muscle by practicing it. Carving out time throughout the day, or once a week, once a month, whatever, to actually work the muscle. Just like if I'm in the gym and I'm trying to get stronger, I can go once a month, but it's probably going to take me a very long time to reach my goals. If I go once a week, a little bit quicker. If I go a couple times a week, even quicker. Same thing here. So first, acknowledge that I'm not a solo agent anymore. Second, find my way of how I connect, how I hear information. And third, strengthen it by practicing it. So as an example of this in my life, when I first started discovering, and it really was that, it was a discovery, discovering my connection with Mother Earth, it was through the communication with flowers and plants, the devas, the devic energy. And at first it was just listening, sitting with a wildflower, a tree, a bush, etc., and just sitting there with an open heart, an open mind, and receive. And it kind of showed me how to listen, how to hear. And then over time, it became more of a co-creation where I could actually ask questions. I could engage the devas. And at first I was quite hesitant because I didn't want to interrupt, or I didn't want to overlay anything of my stuff on them. But I eventually found, wow, no, they desire the interaction. So then that's kind of how I started. And I would practice this every day. When I first learned to do this, I was living on Maui in Hawaii. So it was very easy because the devas nature is more, on one level, nature is more accessible on islands than in, let's say, a city. But you can still do it. You can still get there in a city or a town or something. You just have to, again, third step, practice it.
Yeah, these are wonderful. I love how you said that once you establish the connection, not only that you refer to it as we.
Right.
So you're not a solo agent. It's almost like like we. So basically you have this concept of it's not just you, it's you and let's say Mother Earth together. So it also almost gives a responsibility right away. This is how I see it on oneself, that it's not just you do whatever you want. Like you have to it's both of you. So whatever in your daily life, in your daily even thought process, if it's you together, like for me, for instance, it's right away, it's calling me to my higher self, like
Yes,
just be my foolish self or selfish self or whatever.
exactly.
It's
Yes.
so that's a very, thank you for saying that. I'll think about it differently now. And of course, you know, practice is, I mean, if you want to do anything, you have to practice.
Yep.
What might be implicit, what is implicit in what you both are sharing, but I will say it, speak to it anyway, is to be gentle with ourselves with this too. It doesn't have to look a certain way. Like it really is a creation between you and whatever you're connecting with.
Mm.
So, you know, allow that period of listening, as Adam said, and then the asking the question and developing the relationship over time. And there's no, for perfectionists or former perfectionists like me, like it can be very overwhelming almost. Like if we don't have a structure or if we don't feel like there's a right way to do it and we're not doing it the right way, oftentimes that prevents us from even starting. It's really, for me, it's been important to remember and recognize that just the gesture itself, that open invitation, contains everything right there. And then it's just a matter of letting it unfold in its own timing. And if we can get it out of the way of the, you know, how much we can control the outcome or think we want to control or need to control it, it's just so much more of a literal co-creation, and the wisdom that's there is much more accessible. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Andrea. This is all very, very important. And as we are talking about earlier about maybe making an offering to the ancestors, I know that I will just speak from my own experience. I would be just, oh, what's the message? I didn't hear it. What is it? I'm impatient. I'm in a rush. Oh, did I? And the self-judgment comes in. It's almost ridiculous.
Yes.
As you mentioned, Andrea, it's a process. It might come a month later, a year. It might come in a dream. You know, I'm always upset, like, oh, people say I hear this voice. Like, I don't hear any voices. Why don't I hear voices? You know, and it's a spiraling down and doesn't serve anybody anything if you want to force something. And as you mentioned, Adam, it's a way of tuning into yourself and discovering what speaks to you. If it's a tingle under the right knee, then it's your sign. You have to pay attention to yourself so you can to know what is it in you that makes you hear or makes you understand, you know, in your own way. So yeah. So I'll just say that the time is passing by quickly, and I just wanted to ask you, like, what do you feel Mother Earth's vision for herself is, and for us humans?
Yeah. So this might be a little woo-woo for folks, but I want to share this because I think now is the time for us to really be opening to different realities than we've ever. I'm just going to share some slightly far out stuff. Mother Earth is our ground, as I've said before here today in our conversation. My opinion is that our bodies are the earth. Okay. And at the same time, this whole reality, this physical universe, and even what we call the quantum realms, that there's like at the leading edge of science and time travel and going to Mars and whatever. This is all just within our current universal reality. It's my experience that there are other universal realities different than this one. And in that light, I have had experiences throughout my life where this earth, what we call Mother Earth, Gaia, actually has mirrors or parallels or siblings. Some are, how do I say? Some are at a higher frequency then this universe can sustain a higher dimensional frequency. Others are of a same frequency, but just in a different dimension, just in a different construction of space and time. So for me, because my relationship with Mother Earth now is what it is, I can't speak to what I'd like it to be or what it was 10 years ago, but what it is now is that the vision that she holds for herself and for us is that, first of all, in terms of us, we wake up, accept, embrace, and completely integrate that we are of the same essence as her. And I feel out of that, her vision for herself is that she will experience the same thing with her other selves, as this whole dimension, as her soul, the soul of Mother Earth, will raise in frequency, expand to reintegrate, reunite with her higher self, her fuller selves. Now, what I just said is a more than a can of worms. There's a ton there to unpack. And I know, Maya, we don't have the time, nor this may not be the venue for it, but a vision, I take, the word vision quite seriously. A vision is something that doesn't have to be limited by the reality of the moment, because this isn't reality. Reality is how open we are or closed we are to what's happening. That's the reality.
Yes.
Right. So I hope that lands for folks and is somehow interesting for folks.
Definitely, absolutely. I think as you said, a vision is not of you.
Yes.
I see right here. A vision is something that you imagine into and take a little bit of a leap of faith and the unknown, of course. So what you said is, I don't think it's that woo-woo, to be honest. I understand that maybe it could be perceived by some, but it kind of ties into things that other speakers were saying in different ways.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Yeah. For instance, like I'll just say it, like L.R. Hartsong was talking about Mother Earth as being a Devi, as
Oh,
self, as being that spirit. And he was saying, like, we call it mother because we don't know how else to relate it in our human language.
yes.
And
Totally.
so he kind of explored in that and honestly introduced me to that to that term. It's kind of like an angelic feminine form. I don't know what else to say.
Yes. Yes, that very much resonates. That image, an angelic feminine form of Earth, that very much resonates with the vibrational signature of some of these, quote, sister, parent, aunt, uncle Earths in other places.
Yeah.
Very much. It occurs to me when you share that, Maya, that in a body of, I have a training, like a study at home training program all around Mars and Venus, invoking the masculine and the feminine within us. Not what we think the masculine feminine is, but what the masculine feminine in us. So this is deeper than gender. And in that teaching, I go into the absolute, especially these days, the critical importance of reconnecting to Father Earth and reconnecting to Mother Sky. And in this way, I think we open to something that unfortunately has been omitted in the last 300-400 years of a kind of slow building return to the feminine, the magnetic instead of the electrical, the inclusive, the feminine principle. So if someone's really been doing Father Earth, Mother Sky work, I'm inviting you now to start opening your heart, your practices to Father Earth, Mother Sky.
Yeah, that is wonderful what you're saying. Yeah, we have to question and flip our perceptions a little bit to kind of like open ourselves up to different concepts. So that's
Yes,
100%. I see how helpful that is. Absolutely.
good.
So
Good.
and that I'm sure there's a ton of teachings, but even going back to the, I guess the Buddhist traditions or the Tibetan traditions where you have a deity that's both like masculine and feminine in,
Awesome.
so
Yes.
you can't have, I guess, one without the other, and we have been dualistic in the recent history, I would say, and
Yes.
and even now, even within myself, like the feminine emergence, the feminine rising, and it's necessary, it's all here, but I can't leave out the other energy, and just referring to Father Earth and finding this deeper connection to Father Earth and Mother Sky is also very, very important. Like it
Yes.
brings a whole different tone of energies, and it's wonderful to work with that. So in
Totally.
general, what
Yeah.
you said is just, I think it's amazing and it's wonderful. So it's kind of like the earth is calling, like from what I understood, what you said is, or the earth is calling us to our higher self. So we together, we, like you said before, us together can rise to a higher frequency, a higher vibration together.
Right. Exactly. And in that higher frequency, in that attainment of a higher frequency, we are not omitting or excluding or ignoring the physical experience. So higher does not mean higher. Always should we should aspire to include everything that has come before when we reach higher.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That
The
ties back
wiz-
to the ancestry piece.
right. Exactly. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So I just, as a final question, I was wondering, can you just for the audience, like speak a little bit about your just somatic intelligence practice of the human heart, just so that so we know what you do and what to come for.
Right. Um, my work is called Soul Sign. That's the name we put to it. Soul Sign. It has three It has three curves. It has 3 points on it. It's sky, heart, and breath. So the sky is all the astrology work. So I have several books. One on the deep feminine through Venus. Others on the system of learning astrology, and one on what I call the wisdom of a deeply open heart. That's all about the asteroid Chiron in astrology. The meditation, the breath component, is a meditation that I received a number of years ago. And it is as Andrea awesomely has called it, it's an inner technology for or to foster our full spectrum humanity, to foster that, not cognitively, but experientially, directly, immediately. It's called the breath of the soul. And then the heart work, which is what you're asking about. The heart work is essentially getting out of our heads, out of our thinking minds, and at a deeper level, getting out of our reliance on our attached beliefs and dropping into what I call our heart, which is our central intelligence. So if my heart is my intelligence center, this is my information center. So it's getting out of information and coming into my inner smarts, and as a direct experience. So that's the somatic heart work. We, it's a person has to really be willing to, as we were saying before, not know in order to get into the heart. Because in the heart, everything's available, which means we just have to increase our muscle of being available, right? The moment I start stressing out about something, I'm no longer available. The moment I start doubting myself, I'm no longer available. The moment I start future tripping or past tripping, I'm out. But if I can stay in the moment, now everything starts to come to me, and I'm very relaxed and easygoing. So that's what I call the open heart experience. So those are the kind of very brief 3 things that I offer there. And the website is soulsign.com. You can find all kinds of information there. There's free stuff, audios, videos, and a store that has a number of titles of my prior lectures, meditations, webinars.
Wonderful. Yeah. A whole set of good things.
Yeah,
Wonderful. Thank
it's good
you.
stuff. Thank you. Thank you very much, Maya, for inviting me here. I really thank you very much.
Thank you. Are you kidding? Both of you. Thank you, Andrea, also for your contributions, for
Yeah.
said what you said. I will have to reflect on both of your wisdoms. Definitely. Appreciate having both of you here. So for the audience, I just wanted to say that there's a gift to all of you. It's an audio talking about receiving. Receiving is in the receiving. So just, would you like to say a few words about that, or it's just self-explanatory?
Yeah, it was a live lecture recorded live. It's going deeper than this normal notion of receiving and what is actual receiving. Um, I mean, I know I recorded it, but it's a good one. Like I get something from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much.
Thank you very much, Maya.
Very much. Yes.
Take care.